Welcome to 50 Plus in Montgomery County, a monthly show produced by the Commission on Aging. Each episode, we look at issues of interest to older adults. My name is Jean Dinwiddie. I'm co-chair of the Commission's Communications Committee. I'm subbing in for our regular host, Commissioner Katie Smith. This month, we're going to look at the many health and environmental benefits of gardening. Joining me is Melissa Siegel, a Montgomery County Master Gardener Advisor. So Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell me a little bit about the Master Gardener program.
Well, it's really quite comprehensive. In the 60s, 1960s, residents were needing more information because they were wanting to move out into the suburbs, and they started having the same kind of problems that farmers were having that were dealt with the land grant universities. They would call them with getting information how to grow their crops, etc. And it became a huge problem because all these residents were running out into the country, and they didn't have enough manpower to help everybody. So they started the Master Gardener program. And there is one in every city or every state. And in our state, we have one in every county. And we're associated with the University of Maryland. There is one in Virginia. They're all over. And what we do is we provide information to residential people that live in our counties who need help. And we also provide other programs for specific groups of people.
So Melissa, this is great. So if I had a question about something in my garden, I have a plant that's not doing well, is it a Master Gardener that I'd contact?
Yes, you would contact our Master Gardener program. A couple of ways. We have a phone number that you can call. It's a dedicated line. If nobody's in the Ballard room, which we do it from, we will call you back. And we also have an email for In the Garden. It's a program right now that we're putting on. We put it on in the spring, summer, and fall months. And it's every other Tuesday where we answer those questions on Facebook Live.
Oh,
And you can call into that program as well.
so I could even bring my phone into the garden to say, here, this is the problem, and a Master Gardener would be able to help me?
You could. Most of the time, though, we take those problems on online on an email, so we can show the pictures to everybody.
Oh, of course, because you would need to be able to see the plant, of course.
Correct.
All right, so it's sort of a plant clinic, right?
Right. Well, we have many of those actually. We do plant clinics all over the county at libraries and farmers markets. You could go online on the Montgomery County Parks website, and they show you which libraries we are at and when we're going to be there.
Oh, wonderful. So as you know, our show is really about older adults. So let's talk a little bit about gardening for older adults. Not everyone has a lawn, so I think, they might have a patio. And then, so if we could talk a little bit about, I think it's called container gardening. And are there any tools? As we get older, sometimes it gets a little bit harder, the up and down, the up and down. Are there, how can, what is available for the older adult gardener?
Okay, first of all, we have a really full program called Therapeutic Horticulture. We go into 22, well, we did go into 26 different communities of older people to do projects with them. And we would bring in a project and then we would do it with them. We would provide an educational component, some kind of treat, maybe some iced tea, and let them actually do a project like planting something or designing something, and it's wonderfully received. And like I said, there's a schedule of where we go, what care homes that we're at, and facilities.
So Melissa, tell me about the health and environmental benefits of gardening.
So, gardening can do many things for a person and for our environment. It can help reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, and it helps us focus on a goal. We're able to focus on things that grow and produce rather than all the sickness that we've been experiencing over these last 2 years. Getting dirt under your nails while digging in the ground can make you pretty happy. In fact, inhaling Mycobacterium vaccae, a healthy bacteria that live in the soil, can increase levels of serotonin and reduce that anxiety. Sunlight provides vitamin D, calcium, which strengthens your bones. And if you're growing your own vegetables and fruit, you're probably eating the freshest vegetables around. Most produce in our markets are grown somewhere else, and it takes so much time to get it to market, and that reduces the nutritional value and the taste. Sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks to get produce on the market. And gardening is a great activity to do with family and especially young children. There's also, like I said, wonderful community gardens we can participate in. The American Community Gardening Association offers a locator tool to find the nearest community gardens near you, and Montgomery County Parks offers many community gardens you can find as well online. Gardening is a way of improving the environment we live in by adding plants and flowers and fruits and vegetables. And when we garden, especially organically, we improve the air and the soil quality, especially our own food, beautifying our space. And instead of taking something away from the natural world, we're adding and tending to something green and beautiful. Plant roots also benefit the soil. The plant roots help bind the soil together, making it less likely to wash away in heavy rains. And the more root systems you have in your yard, the more soil you'll be able to conserve. Plant roots can also add moisture and nutrients to the soil. So when an annual dies and decomposes, it provides protein. It breaks down and turns into nutrients that provide nutrition to plants in the following season.
Tell us, I know we don't have a great deal of time. Tell us a little bit about container gardening. What can a person do on their patio?
What's interesting is there's so much you can do with container gardening, and it's getting to be very popular. Um, People are having a tough time, whether they're older adults or not, getting out into the garden, doing really tough work. And we've come up with this new concept called container gardening. And you can grow vegetables now in pots outside your front door, so you don't have to walk very far. You can grow herbs in your home. It makes a pretty presentation in your front yard. You can combine vegetables, fruits, and flowers. The main thing to remember about combining flowers and edibles is that you need to start those flowers by seed rather than by buying them in a nursery, because they're treated with things that we don't know are good for us to be eating. The
Okay.
flowers, that is, so they look beautiful at the nursery. When you go to buy them, you're going to want to buy something with full flowers and beautiful, no pests. So you need to be careful about that. But it's so interesting what people do with containers. They mix all kinds of things. At Hillwood Gardens, they actually intersperse different colored lettuces in their flower beds to make borders. And, it's just really interesting what you can do with container gardening.
Oh, that sounds great. And I know many adult retirement communities, they allow containers on your deck or on your patio, and so that's wonderful to hear that it can be both sort of the ornamental flower, and that's an important tip, that it should be start your flowers by
Absolutely.
seeds. So you've let us know about where we can find plant clinics and where you'll be. Do you have other upcoming events you'd
Yes,
like to
we have
tell
a
us
big
about?
event coming up on the 14th of May called Grow It, Eat It. We offer over 40 classes in different kinds of gardening aspects. We have a program for Girl Scouts and brownies. We have seed starting, seed saving. I'm doing a program on raising monarch butterflies because that's what I like
Oh,
to do every year. Just wonderful. It begins at 8:30 in the morning. I believe that you have something to show on the program,
yes.
and how people can either buy tickets to specific classes, or there's lots of free classes available too, and it will show you what those are.
And what is the date on that?
It's,
I'm interested in the monarch butterflies.
oh, well, good. You should come because it's going to be a great class. It's on the 14th of May with a rain date of the 15th. That's Saturday is the day, and Sunday if we have rain.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that would be great to even be able to meet in person. That would be
I would love
fantastic.
that.
Yes, yes. Well, Melissa, thank you so much. If we wanted to learn more, if we wanted to get, if any of our viewers wanted to get in touch with the Master Gardener program, how would we do that? Can we'll call that number?
Yes, that number actually is into a room called the Ballard Room, and that's where we get all of our questions coming in centrally, and then we answer them on a daily basis. And
Oh,
also, the email address is specifically for questions on gardening.
all right. And you also have the Facebook program. So
Well,
really,
that's what In the Garden is. It's actually a live program on Facebook. We do it every other Tuesday of the month, and we answer people's questions that have already sent them in, and then we have a time period where we answer live questions.
oh, that is fantastic. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. We really have learned a great deal, and there's no reason why we shouldn't all be out enjoying the garden.
Well, have your people call us because we are ready and able to help.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Up next, we'll talk with Rochelle Bartolomei, the Native Plant Program Manager at Pope Farm Nursery.
Ride on Flex, Montgomery County Department of Transportation's on-demand transit service to help you get around in defined Rockville and Glenmont-Wheaton zones. There are no fixed stops or schedules. Just use the Ride on Flex app or call 240-301-3842 to book your ride. Curb-to-curb service is available for people with disabilities. Standard ride-on fare policy applies. Visit rideonflex.com for service areas and hours of operation.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Did you know there are more than 10,000 county government phone numbers? But there's only one number you need to remember for non-emergency calls, 311. MC 311 is Montgomery County government's online telephone information system. Need information? Have a problem or complaint? Trying to locate a county government facility? Call 311. The call center is open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The website is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
We taught your children and kept Metro running on time. We cared for you in the hospital. We ran high-tech systems. We are engineers, aides, social workers, and everything else you could imagine. And we are available to work right now, right here. We are people aged 50 plus who are eager to show you that ability is ageless. A diversity of perspectives allows teams to thrive. Are you doing what it takes to hire us? Go to our 50 plus page at worksourcemontgomery.com.
Welcome back to 50 Plus in Montgomery County. Hello, Rochelle. Thank you so much for joining us today. Look at that beautiful background. Are you at Pope Farm Nursery?
I am. I'm surrounded by my best friends, all the flowers, and their bees that like to attend to them.
That is wonderful. Tell us, so you're a native plant specialist, and am I correct in assuming those are native plants behind you?
They are. These are plants that grow along the C&O Canal, wild phlox and Pacra aurea, which is golden ragwort, and hydrophyllum, which is water leaf. So lots of plants that love to be here and do well here and are really beautiful and fragrant as well.
They really are gorgeous. So it appears they're in their native environment, and I am thinking, I'm thinking that that's really the advantage of using native plants. They kind of grew up here, right? Is that it? Are there others?
Well, native plants, if you grow them in your landscape or your patio, they are replacing some much needed land that is being taken away every day by development, invasive plants. So you're helping to create diversity, and you're supporting the critters that live here and depend on these plants. They don't take any pesticide, they don't need any pesticides, they don't need any fertilizer. Once they're established, you don't have to irrigate them. So they're really workhorse plants in general. There are a few that are a little more delicate and take more care, but they're on the rare side. Usually native plants are just very easy care plants.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Easy care, lower maintenance. That's that's like music to my ears. How did you get started as a native plant specialist?
I moved into a house that had formerly been wooded, a wooded lot, and I felt guilty, honestly. And so I did do some research and planted a few things that I thought would be useful in the landscape. Some of the things I planted were native, others were not, and they were growing side by side. And when I just kept stopping by this one plant called cup plant, Silphium, and that plant changed my life because I could just stand in front of it and see the hugest diversity of bees and beetles and butterflies and moths, skippers, birds. Every single creature you can imagine would use this plant. And I bought a book on entomology to study which bugs they were, and I found out there's mason bees, which are blue, and there's other little green bees that are metallic, and it's a whole world in and of itself. And then right next to it was a plant that was not native, and there was nothing visiting it. And as an Italian and as a mother, I like to feed the people that visit me. So for me, it was a no-brainer to grow plants that I knew were nourishing the insects that were visiting them.
That sounds wonderful. And one little plant and all the different insects, it was a whole ecosystem unto itself, isn't it?
Exactly, but not little, it's very large.
Yeah. One of the things that we have talked about, it's a show for older adults, so we know that not every older adult has the lawn that they're able to devote to native plants. So are there things that a person could do, say if they had a patio or a deck with native plants?
Absolutely, there's a lot of native plants that take 2 pots. They are generally plants that grow in meadows, so they are sun lovers in general, that like good drainage. And that's, you need to have something like that in a pot, which dries out quickly. So an example would be one of the milkweeds, butterfly weed, which is orange. It's very beautiful. And that plant, you can also attract monarchs with that plant because it is a host plant, meaning that the insects that use it also, they don't just gather nectar, but they also lay their eggs on the plant, and it's the host for monarch butterflies. And so if you are lucky enough to attract monarchs to your plant, you'll also get to watch them develop from eggs to caterpillars and then to a beautiful chrysalis, and then emerge in a fairly quick point of time. They do eat a lot of milkweed, so you might want to make sure you have enough plants.
A couple containers, huh?
But it's extremely, nothing in my garden is boring. I often will go out to weed and I'll just end up sitting there going, and just looking at new things and new sounds, it's an extremely exciting journey rather than just like, oh, that's a pretty flower. It has a life force in itself and lots of friends.
Yeah, as I think ecosystem is the word that you've used.
Absolutely.
I understand that native plants can be difficult to come by. Can you tell us a
Correct.
little bit about that?
It is changing because people have native fever right now, and the market always lags behind. So number one, make sure you ask for them. And there are a lot of good resources, because sometimes when you ask at, say, Home Depot, they're going to say, oh, everything's here is native, but they don't really know. So you have to also know your source. So the Maryland Native Plant Society is a very good source for where to purchase native plants that have been vetted by them. They have a list on their website, mdflora.org, and you can find suppliers there, or you can carefully question the people who you're buying the plants from, because American Plants has some natives, and a lot of places are getting them. And just ask where they were sourced, and also you could take with you a guide. There's a guide to native plants online through the Fish and Wildlife Service that's free. So you can bring that with you. It'll give you some more ideas about what's actually native and not just whatever they tell you.
Okay. And then those native plants are going to help attract the native insects that they grew up
Correct.
together, basically, the two of them.
Yes.
Okay, they're
Absolutely.
meant to be together. So
They have they sometimes have a very specific association with each other. So a particular flower, like bottle gentian, cannot be opened by any bee. It has to be a certain bumblebee with the strength to open the flower. And then once it gets in the flower closes around it, and then you just see the flower going boom like that. It's in there pollinating. So there's also that sort of interaction, which is really amazing to watch. You just don't get that with your everyday zinnia.
No, that sounds fantastic. So you said MD Flora is the place where we could know, is this really a native plant or not? And I guess it's really do your research before you're going to get a native plant.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You had mentioned when we chatted before that you're growing the demand for native plants and what you grew last year versus what you're growing this year. Right.
You meant constantly slowing down, just trying to put the brakes on on all the demand, because it's incredible. The plant sales are selling out within minutes, and I just can't produce as much as is needed. So we definitely have a spot for people who want to make some money growing more native plants.
Yeah, and knowing that the demand is there, that means that there'll be more of them. So that's wonderful to hear. And the garden there is absolutely beautiful. And you mentioned going out to weed. I know older adults might be interested in something that's a little easier to care for, and you talked about invasive plants. So I think something easier. Are native plants in general a little bit easier to care for because they're native?
So I hesitate to say that, because everything needs care. It's not like, pavement. But when I see my neighbors mowing their lawn every week, I'm just like, oh, I don't have to do that. It's usually cutting it back in the late winter, early spring, any of the perennials and grasses, so that the new growth can come up. But you generally want to leave all of your stalks up over the winter so that the insects that are living in them can have a place to be. Bees often nest in empty stalks. And then sometimes caterpillars overwinter in the leaf litter underneath the plants. So you don't want to rake, you don't want to cut everything back. You just want to let nature take its course, which is great for the lazy gardener. And when you want to decrease your maintenance, what you want to do is have areas that are really full. You can see, I don't have many weeds in here. There's a couple, but this is full, it's jam-packed. And these plants that I have here creep rhizomatically, so they do fill in. And that's another nice thing to look for, is things that are rhizomatic, meaning they have stems that grow sideways and then pop up another plant. So the more fill you have, you don't need to bother with mulch. You'll have much less weeding and much more enjoyment.
You've made a convert out of me, I have to say. So we have just a few minutes left. Where would you say, how would people learn more about native plants? Would it be that Native Plant Association, the MD Flora?
The Maryland Native Plant Society, they have meetings that are either by Zoom or in person. It's a really excited group of people who, for plant nerds, okay? So that you have to just bear in mind that when you go for walks with them, it takes about 30 minutes to get out of the parking lot because they're fascinated by every little plant in the crack of the sidewalk. And but that is the best way. They offer lots of free walks, and you can go for walks with these other people who know all the plants, and they can teach you about them and how to identify them and where to find them, and often share their own, because the thing about natives is they are open pollinated, which means they can seed anywhere, which makes it good and bad. On the good side, you have lots to share. On the bad side, they can be a little over exuberant at times.
Okay.
And so you have a lot to share. So just bear in mind that that's how the native network works. It's mostly people sharing their plants with each other.
Oh,
That's so it's cheap and easy and fun.
yeah. And relatively low care. I'm so happy you were able to talk to us from outside in the garden, because it really is beautiful.
Yes.
And we really appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thank you so much. It's a very
Thank
important topic,
you.
dear to my heart.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, that concludes our program on the joys of gardening. We hope that you find the information provided useful and that you'll enjoy yourself in the garden. To learn more about the many services for seniors in Montgomery County, please visit the Montgomery County Seniors website at montgomerycountymd.gov/senior, or call the Senior Resource Line at 240-777-3000. And as always, thank you for watching 50 Plus in Montgomery County.
Would you wait 7 years if you needed bypass surgery? Of course not. Then why wait to get your hearing checked? Hearing loss affects nearly 2/3 of people 70 and older in the United States. It can be associated with many health problems, including dementia. However, it often goes unrecognized or untreated, but help is available. Hearing problems can be serious. If you think you have a hearing problem, it is important that you seek the advice from a healthcare provider. There are several types of professionals, resources, and websites that can help you. Get the facts and get the fact sheet. Contact Aging and Disability Resource Line at 240-777-3000.
Are you spending more time outdoors on your backyard deck? I am Jeremy Shupp from the Department of Permitting Services, where building safety is our top priority. During the month of May, we are offering free residential deck inspections for homeowners as part of Building Safety Month. These inspections take less than 15 minutes. Once on site, an inspector will check the support structure of your deck as well as the ledger and condition of the guardrail. Make sure your deck is safe for your family and guests. Call 311 and schedule your free deck maintenance inspection today.
Senior Call Check is Maryland's free service providing an automated daily check-in call for residents 65 and older. Senior Call Check makes an automated call every day, and if there is no response, follows up to ensure that you or your loved one is okay. Call 1-866-50-CHECK or register online at aging.maryland.gov.
Our fight against coronavirus isn't over. We still have to slow the spread and do our part. Let's wear face masks in public. Stay 6 feet or more from others. Follow state and local guidelines. Wash our hands frequently and stay home when we feel safe. For ourselves, for our loved ones, for our future. Let's move forward together. Learn more at coronavirus.gov.
You are loved. You are valued. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.